The Century Initiative is literally a nonprofit organization founded by Dominic Barton, the former global head of McKinsey, who I believe is or just was the Canadian ambassador to China. He's very good buddies with Trudeau. Him and his other buddy, who is a BlackRock finance bro, I think he runs like BlackRock in Canada, they came up, their brainchild was the Century Initiative, which is essentially, let's grow Canada to 100 million people as fast as humanly possible. And that's where all of these immigration targets are coming. I think one of the biggest variables that nobody talks about for some reason, including Doug Ford, is the demand side of the equation, which is the mass immigration. Like Trudeau, our immigration rate, as far as I can tell, is about 5 or 6 times higher than the United States on a relative basis, right? Our immigration target is around like 1.2% of our population every year. The US historically over the last decade or two has been around 0.2 or 0.3% of its total population every year. So riddle me this, I've yet to hear someone explain this to me. How do you expand our infrastructure, like think traffic and road networks, 5 times faster on an annual basis in the United States? How do you expand our hospital network, our education network? How do you build 5 times the number of houses relative
bike lanes?
Bike lanes, yeah. Well, it's like, do we have 5 times the electricians as the United
laneway
States?
suites?
5 times the number of plumbers as the United States. It's absolutely crazy. I don't know if you guys have ever talked about the Century Initiative on your podcast, but that is the brainchild of the former head of McKinsey, Dominic Barton, who's good buddies. And this is not like a World Economic Forum, necessarily conspiracy theory type of thing. This is this is a real organization.
You'll own nothing and
explain it to the viewers
true.
and listeners who don't know.
Don't you feel like that?
Well, fellow peasants, the Century Initiative is literally a nonprofit organization founded by Dominic Barton, the former global head of McKinsey, who I believe is or just was the Canadian ambassador to China. He's very good buddies with Trudeau. Him and his other buddy, who is a BlackRock finance bro, I think he runs like BlackRock in Canada, they came up, their brainchild was the Century Initiative, which is essentially, let's grow Canada to 100 million people as fast as humanly possible. And that's where all of these immigration targets are coming from.
No way.
In the Trudeau government. And it's absolutely nuts. So if Dominic Barton was here, he would say, listen, we need to start pursuing a like quantity over quality kind of strategy for Canada, you know, because in his mind, I've heard stuff from him. It's like, we need to compete with the United States. We need to compete with China. I mean, I would argue that Canada's whole strategy is a quality of life, not a quantity of life strategy. And that's why people love this place. But anyways, all of the immigration targets that Trudeau has is basically based on this philosophy.
See, this makes sense, actually. Like, do you know how, like, we always say, like, what's the actual goal here? Like, we see what they say, but what they do doesn't really line up with what they say. But like this,
100 million people.
Yeah, if you're going for 100 mil, this makes a hell of a lot of sense because
but
that's a lot of fucking people.
I mean, there's 500,000 people that have come into the province right over the last 12 months, and there was a bit of a blip because I think there was a lower income in the previous year. But I think we built 65,000 units of housing during that same period. We do not have the capacity to build that many homes. It has nothing to do with land. Jason made a few points about build anything anywhere. I really disagree with that from a planning perspective. I think that can end up very, very poorly. It can end up just wrecking, municipal infrastructure and the tax situation, all that kind of stuff. One of the huge variables here is we just can't build. We can't build any faster.
Even if we could,
there's
we had permits, we couldn't get it built.
Well, but there's a few things, and I agree. Listen, you can't just build because, I totally agree with you. It would just destroy everything. And like from an infrastructure point of view, when you look at how bad the highways are, like in terms of traffic, when you look at the hospitals, like, I remember I had to take my son to sick kids not that long ago. And the craziest part was they had doctors they had no nurses. We had to wait 9 hours to get to see. The doctor was like, we have doctors, I don't have any nurses. We need nurses to help me with the procedure. He had something in his eye. Like we have a lack of all these different things, but yet we're putting more strain on it. Now, in terms of building, one thing that I don't know why it's not talked about more is like why we haven't really looked at modular. You look at places like Florida and a lot of these different states. I mean, they literally put a concrete slab. They throw modular homes on them. They're very cheap. You can put them up very quickly. Like there are options, but my concern is that how do we sustain that type of growth without any type of plan? Like, you know, when I read comments on videos of people saying, I'm applying for MAID because I can't afford to live anymore.
Oh my
That
God.
that's fucking depressing, guys. Like, I'll tell you right now, as a human, that's something that should never ever happen. You should never see that. It's like, what the hell happened? That's actually that is even a thing, that it's gotten so crazy here that people are like, it's not worth living anymore because I can't live. You know, they're working 2-3 jobs for what? To rent an apartment and to barely afford food. 1 in 5 people going to food banks. Food banks, the highest levels they've ever been. What the hell happened? This is not the way it was, you know, 10 years ago, 7 years. This is not the way it was. It just wasn't like this.
But what the
Yeah,
hell's wrong with all the people? What's
I
wrong with all the
actually-
people that are coming in now? Like, even in the last few months, like we've brought in 500,000 people in the last 4 months. Like, what the fuck's wrong with them? Don't they have internet or like a cell phone plan? Like, don't they know
currency
what's going on
exchange
here?
though, right? Everybody I talk to, it's just like, I'm making 4, 5, 6 to 1, whatever it is. And so they look at it like, either I'm going to come here to work and I'm going to send the money home, or I'm going to come here and that my idea is I'm going to have a better life because I hear that I'm making 4 or 5 times the way it is back home. So there's still lots of opportunity here. I know it's hard for us to imagine, right? But there's also people who don't need the quality of life that, you know, we all take for granted, right? They don't mind sharing a 3-bedroom apartment with 6 people. They don't mind doing those type of things to be able to sacrifice to get in. So I can see why. I don't think that there's like all the people who are coming to Canada right now are all, you know, miserable about being here.
No, but I think what it goes back to, so I agree, like some people, let's say, are having a great time. The issue is it goes back to the infrastructure, right? Like, you look at schools, you've got 35 kids in a class. You look at hospitals in Toronto, there's like 24-hour wait times in the ER, you know, surgeries, like we mentioned, like MRIs, that type of thing. You know, you look at the US has, you know, we have 10x the population, or sorry, they have 10 times the population, less land mass, and home prices are half of what they are. So something is wrong.
Hey guys, thanks for watching our clips channel. Why don't you go and check out some more clips? We got lots of other good content somewhere over here. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.
Boom.
That was good.
That was good. I like that. That was good.